Raise the Roof Production.
Well, you'll never know the heartache of looking a grown man in the eye, and he asked, am I gonna make it? And you've gotta lie. Well, they call me Doc, but I ain't got no degree. When shit hits the fan, they're calling for me. From bluegrass Kentucky, with red blood on my hands, nobody calls me hero except for my friends. Yeah, they call me Doc.
Hello, brothers and sisters. Welcome to another edition of Sick Call with Doc. I'm your host, Rod Doc Walbeck, United States Navy Corpsman. Always our co-host, Joe Misfit Glenn, United States Army Medic. On the dials, Devil Dog Roof. Hello, everyone. Thank you for showing up for another episode. When I talk to this next guest, have you ever talked to somebody and the whole story, your mouth is just wide open in disbelief of the resilience that somebody may have? And that's what I got talking to United States Army veteran Scott Reese. Welcome to the show, brother.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm doing awesome. I'm glad you're here because I think that your story, after talking with you at length, I think that your story will resonate with other veterans or anyone else that could use some help. If there's I think that every person on the planet can relate to something you're going to say today. So I'm looking forward for our fellow brothers and sisters to hear what you have to say today. And today is your day. It's your floor. Start wherever you want. Finish up with cannabis in your life, how you are today. And let's go get some veterans and make sure that they stay with us another day.
Okay, well, I'm 54. I was born in 1971. My father was not a nice man. He was a rough man. He beat us children and my mom mercilessly from the time I was about 12 to when he passed away from cancer when I was a junior in high school. You know, he wasn't a good man. He was a drinker. He was also a veteran. He was a Korean vet. And Mom said he changed when he came back from Korea. He wasn't the same Dale that was before that. But so my whole world was revolving around joining the Army, getting the hell out of that little town, because I was raised in a town that had 750 people. You know, you got in trouble on the north side of town, they knew about it on the south side before you're even done.
Right.
You know, you couldn't get away with nothing. And so, you know, my plan was go in the Army, get a job that I could make into a career, which my plan was to work at the nuclear power station in Byron, Illinois. It was 30 miles away, good money. Going in the Army, getting that would be good for me. Well, join the Army, they said. Good for you, they said. Sure.
Was your dad Army also?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. He didn't talk about it much because it was horrifying. You know, Korea wasn't a playground either. So when I went into the Army on January 2nd of 1990, came to Fort Sill, which is coincidentally enough 20 miles from where I'm at right now. Did my basic. I was the lucky soul that got to do CQ for the first pass, between basic and AIT. We just changed barracks on the base. And post.
They put you in like a holding barracks for guys that are moving around, going to different places and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So, everybody had 2 days off, and I was first up on the CQ list. And about 11:45 at night, I was going through doing bed check. get the guys who have been drinking, make sure they were sleeping on their stomachs, not on their backs, the standard. And one guy came up from behind me, and he was swinging at my head as I was turning, and he crushed the whole left side of my skull with this baseball bat. Everything from the crown of my head down past my eye socket to my jaw has been reconstructed. And I still have vision in both eyes. It's just they're not straight anymore.
They caught you from behind in the side, like on a flank. They took a flank on you.
I heard it, and as I was turning, that's when the bat was coming in.
Oh,
yeah, he hit me like Sammy Sosa going for the long ball. Wasn't a good day. But he took my wallet, left me, and I got up off the floor and put my eyeball in my mouth, and I walked a quarter of a mile to my drill sergeant's office.
A fellow service member did this.
Him and his buddy, they had gone out and they spent their whole mid-month paychecks on cocaine and a prostitute. I was just the guy who was there when they realized they were broke. The other guy went one way, this guy went and found me. I was just the one that got whacked, which was just 35 years ago. Last month was the 35th anniversary. And, since that day, I have not known a day without a headache. Some days they're worse, some days they're better. At one point, VA in their infinite wisdom, they were sending me 80 milligram Oxycontin a day.
Scott, let me ask you, what were you wanting to be in the Army, since you were in the whole pattern before school or whatever? What were you going to do?
I was going to go work at the nuclear power facility in Byron. So
Where?
That's why in Byron, Illinois.
Okay.
They have it was a good job. If you didn't want to work at Caterpillar or some other industrial job, Byron was the I guess ultimate place to go for us.
Yeah, did you have good ASVAB scores and stuff, really?
Yeah, I had very high ASVAB scores.
I mean,
basically anything was open to me, but I chose what I chose because I thought it would go well into my future career. Well, once I got hurt, I was in the hospital for a week. I looked like Quasimodo's tall cousin for about 6 months. I was all misshapen out here. This has all been, I've had 4 eye surgeries and 2 facial reconstructions to get me to look this good, which isn't bad. I mean, I've seen people who look a lot worse. So I've had to adapt to it. But when I was getting out of the Army, they said, by the way, we're not going to let you do anything that's considered dangerous to you or anybody else. Well, that took my job at Byron right out the window.
Huh.
So everything just sort of collapsed as soon as I got out of the Army. Then
so you were still 19 or 20?
I was 20 when I got out.
Any idea what happened to the guy that did this?
Yeah, he went to Fort Leavenworth, and that's where he still is.
Good.
He got life for hitting me. It was like hitting an officer while I was on CQ. So it was a vicious attack.
That was premeditated attempted murder.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he thought, if the guy dies, there won't be a witness to who did it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
God, I can't get over that.
Yeah, it wasn't a good day, but any day you can wake up is a good day.
So you got home, well, you got healed, or you went home and finished up healing. Couldn't get the job where you wanted. What happened?
I started working menial labor, the easiest thing I could, because I was at this point now I'm getting these headaches that, some days are, a 2 to a 3 or all the way up to, 10, and in the first year that I was out of the Army, I lost 32 jobs. They hired me to work X amount of hours a week, and because I had to take a day off for a headache, you're gone. Especially in the beginning, that 2-week, 3-week probationary period.
Right.
Employers need loyalty and consistency.
X amount of hours, they want those hours. Now, I did have a couple jobs like telemarketing where it was, they would work with me. I could go in and call on hours that I wasn't, normally scheduled, but that was because I was a high seller. I got a nice voice. I got a voice that radio would love. But
Could have been store security, the people that dressed in plain clothes and walk around the store looking for people who steal. Because you can keep track of 2 aisles at least.
I tried actually once to get a job as a air marshal, and I did the tests, I did the interview, and I did the psychological stuff. And when I was doing my final interview, she said, "What do you think you can really do for us?" I'm like, "Put me in the back of the plane, give me 2 guns, we're fine." They did not like that joke, and that's where that job stopped.
Well, you lost that one on your own, kid.
Yeah.
I thought I was being funny. I was not.
So you spent most of your life that way doing menial stuff or things that you consider more menial?
Oh yeah,
the whole life.
When I got out of the Army, the VA in their infinite wisdom also said that I was only 10% disabled. So then I was getting $90 a month in 1991 through 1996. And then I got a raise to $535 a month, which was like 30% disabled at that point. And when you've only lived on $90 a month for 5 years, 535 that's a pretty nice jump. I did other jobs like mowing lawns and taking care of people's stuff, fixing cars, but nothing that lasted very long. But yeah, I was on convalescent leave for 9 months, and that was when I started to get used to seeing differently, because I do see 2 of everything. This eye says you're here, but this eye says, yeah, maybe not. So I have learned how to deal with it, but things are a little harder. I don't have depth perception like you guys. You have stereoscopic vision. I have dual monocular vision. So
So can you drive?
I drive.
Oh, cool.
In fact, I'm probably one of the safest drivers out there because I got my eye on the road here, and this eye sitting right on the mirror on my door. I can see the idiots in front of me and the ones behind me.
You do kind of have a superpower, bro. Just be honest. Yeah. So let's back up a minute. So you just went through boot. You're in the whole pattern to go to school, and somebody freaking hits you in the head so hard it deforms your head, pops your eye out, left you for dead, and the fact you're alive is incredible. Took your fucking wallet and left you there.
Yeah.
And then getting out, the transition seemed really good for you. I mean, like they didn't do shit for you.
It was tough because after I was on convalescent leave for 9 months. Okay. And when I got off of convalescent leave and I was at my first duty station in Germany, I was, there's issues.
So they did send you to Germany.
I did. I went to Krelsheim, and I was there while I was recovering. Then my unit had been deployed to another base while they went to Iraq for Desert Storm. So they were somewhere else, and they had left me on base because I was still on convalescent leave. But then I was attached to the MPs as a gate guard for a while. So yeah, it was 9 months of convalescent leave. It was, a lot of people weren't happy that I didn't have to do anything, and then I got on light duty, and there were either jealousy or anger or whatever, I don't know, but it wasn't fun for me in the Army anymore. There was no, boy, I can't wait to make this a career.
All right, let me ask you this: Are you proud that you served?
I say that my career was not long nor distinguished.
Yeah, you made it through boot though, bro. That's what we all have to do to get going. I mean, like you did that.
For the last 8-10 years, I've been helping veterans. I started out with a group that was called Sprayed and Betrayed, Heroes Destined to Die. Was Vietnam vets, Agent Orange. They were, still fighting the Vietnam War, in 2014. I got involved with that group and started helping vets, because at this point I'm still, I'm 18 years into fighting the Army for my benefits because I lived for so long on so little. It's bad. But I started, learning that red tape parade. I knew who I had to talk to, which forms to fill out. And that's how I got involved with most of these groups, talking with vets, hey, it could be worse.
Have you spent time working with the VA to get better than 30%, or is that where you've been the whole time? And
it was 18 years. I had gotten my 7th denial for individual unemployability. I didn't care if I was 100%, but as long as I knew that I was going to be taken care of, I thought, well, this will take a lot of stress, because I lived, like I said, for 5 years on $90 a month. And then I lived on $535 a month for the next 10 years. So imagine now I've got out and now I'm 36, 37 and still living on $535 a month, plus whatever I can make on, side jobs, the hustle. And I lost myself at some point to the pills for the better part of 6-7 years.
And was that in your 20s or your 30s or 40s? When was that?
That was the early 30s to the mid 30s.
Right.
My journey off the pills was actually started the day that I got the letter from my congressman, because there was a congressman who had an office just down from the clinic where I would go in Florida. And I was like, I can't believe that they just denied me again with all of this stuff from doctors saying, he's pretty messed up, to everybody who says, yeah, you guys really screwed this poor guy. And so I went to this congressman's office. He wasn't there. He was in Washington, but they made me an appointment for the next week to go in and see him and have a half-an-hour meeting with Congressman Bill. And that was in Viera or Rockledge, Florida. I got there and, we started talking, and this half-an-hour meeting with Congressman Posey turned into an hour and a half through lunch. He canceled lunch with some federal judges just to take me to lunch to hear what had happened to me. And unbeknownst to me at the time, he was the head of the Senate Finance Committee for the Department of Veterans Affairs. So I skipped a few. I skipped a few rungs on the chain of command, and 7 days later, I got a letter from his office telling me that they were happy to inform me that I was 70% disabled with individual unemployability, which at that point gave me, all the benefits of, 100%, right, which changed my life at that point. Well, that night that I got that letter, I invited some friends over and we were having a good time. We were partying, we were smoking weed. I shared pills. I know I'm not supposed to, but I did. It was a different time. And yep. One of my friends stole half a month's supply of my pills. I went to go get a pill after everybody left, and my bottle, everything, gone. So I went from 800 milligrams of Oxycontin a day to nothing overnight.
My brain says this, Scott. They recruited somebody, got him all the way through boot camp, who was capable of doing such a thing. That's on them, brother, and they should have taken care of you. It shouldn't be just about your medical problems, how things happen, the liability that falls onto your branch of service for the government, mm-hmm. And they don't like that shit. No. Well, they don't like that. No, sign here, you're gone, bye, see ya.
Yeah, it was horrible with the VA for all those years. I mean, I didn't know, certain things I didn't know. Like, I like to diffuse tension with humor. You probably noticed I say a lot of eye jokes. Okay, I work with what I got.
Good. They're good too, bro.
And so, I was at a comp and pen hearing, and I did that with the doctor, and they wrote it down like, well, he can't be depressed because he's making jokes.
Quite the
Robin
contrary.
Williams.
Quite the contrary.
You know, he was a comedian for shit's sake, and what happened to him? You know,
And he suffered his whole life. He suffered his whole life.
whole life.
Yeah.
Nobody knew it.
Yep.
Now, you know, if they ever redid Young Frankenstein, I know I'd be a shoo-in for Igor.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, I can change my eyes quicker than he can change his hump.
So let me ask you this: what did you suffer from your 20s through at all ever of mental illnesses or depression, anxiety, panic attacks? Freaking can't be in the dark because someone's gonna fucking tag you with a bat, you know, or like do you have that stuff going on? Yeah, paranoia.
Never sat in a room with my back towards the door. Never. I was always hyper alert.
Hyper vigilant.
Hyper vigilant. I have photophobia, which, you know, certain lights like fluorescent lights, they really hurt me. You know, when you're doing, you know, telemarketing back then, everything was fluorescent lights. So they gave me sort of a swing shift. They worked with me because I was a good salesman. But other places, no. They were like, you're here to work. This is what you do. You don't get any, you know, you work from this point to this point. You get lunch, a couple breaks. Do it. I tried to go to college. I got my GI Bill, and I had to drop out within the first 3 months because, you know, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday in those lights. By Thursday and Friday, I couldn't go back to school. And on Friday, I definitely didn't go back because I was already in, you know, migraines.
Was there online stuff back then or no? That was before all the online crap, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And you know, now I'm able to, you know, I don't have to go to somebody and go to work for somebody because I got my 100%, my 70 IU. So when there is a bad headache day, I go in my bedroom, cover myself up, and go to sleep. That's you know, when, you know, I smoke a lot of cannabis. It helps, you know, in between. I have the only medication that I take now is Imitrex, which is great. It's an injectable. I just put, and 30 seconds later, I can feel the blood flowing, and it's like,
wow.
But you know, how much of that can you take before it starts to hurt your body?
Right.
How much can you take of this before it starts to hurt your body?
Right.
Yeah. Right.
You know, how many people have died from the use of cannabis?
Still waiting. Still waiting.
I think that they're pretty round. Yeah, 0.
Yeah.
You know, now there are those people who might have gone out, you know, after they smoked and went and wrecked their car because they were idiots, but that's probably because they couldn't drive a car in the first place.
Right. Have you done any work with holistic type foods that can help you? Because Joe, for season 3, Joe's hopping on that because, you know, we keep telling people find some alternatives to the pills if you can, right? We're not here to treat or diagnose, but we should be able to provide our listeners, our viewers, another option besides cannabis. And so that's just one piece of a big thing, huh, Joe? It's just like,
yeah, man. I mean, I can literally tell you right now that in my research, which isn't terribly, you know, a whole bunch, I'm just in the starting phases, but I can tell you right now, magnesium is one of the most important things that we need as human beings. Every one of us is deficient. And what does that sound like? Sounds like cannabis, right? Cannabis is naturally deficient in magnesium. So I start trying to find correlations, man. There's a lot of things that the cannabis plant needs to survive and be beautiful and have great colas and be good medicine that our bodies need, including pH, right? We should be alkaline, right? That's better for our stomachs, right? Acid in your stomach, you need to be alkaline. Our body's pH is all fucking out of whack because we just don't pay attention to that stuff anymore. You know?
So, yeah.
I've learned one thing out of all the years that I've been like this. When I have a bad headache, I listen to techno music. We kind of talked about this before, and my heartbeat goes about 60 beats a minute. the techno that I listen to is right around 120 beats a minute. So as my heart beats and my head goes boof, the music is going boof. So this headache has now become part of the music. It becomes the bass line. So
Yeah.
boof, 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 fine.
That makes it tolerable.
It allows me to disassociate it. It's not the omnipresent headache that for years and years and years I had to deal with, on my own before I learned this. And it's definitely helped me. I used to listen to classic rock all the time. And like I said, they'll go from AC/DC to Rod Stewart. And that disparity definitely doesn't help that when you're trying to control the pain versus eliminate the pain. I mean, I've always had a headache since I got hurt. I mean, it's always there. Not one day it's more tolerable than others, but other days I don't even want to get out of bed. If it rains, when the barometric pressure drops, I'm done. I go lay down. People who know me don't call me when it's raining. They some people like my Jeffrey Bly, he's in Virginia. He looks at the weather out here before he calls me, so he knows. Because that's just
that's a good buddy.
Yeah.
Huh.
Good ones. He's an Army vet too.
Let me ask. A lot of vets have a real hard time with alcohol. Did you have spells of that with alcohol, or no? You stayed away, or?
Well, now here's the thing. When I was only living on $90 a month, smoke weed or drink. There wasn't money for both. So
right.
On those early years, I was, smoking that brick weed, with all the seeds, I could get that for, $25 an ounce. I can do that, $20 an ounce. Go through somebody's lawn tomorrow. It's okay. I'll be good. It wasn't great, but it was still better than nothing. And then when I got more money, then things happened where I started drinking more. I have a grand affinity for Jägermeister and Red Bulls or Monsters, and also Fuzzy Needles, which is peach vodka and peach tree schnapps and orange juice. And sometimes I overdo it, but I try not to. I try to keep myself to a limit because I play pool. I have a big pool table out in my living room that I've been using to help me with my depth perception, and just keeps me from having to go out to a bar to go have fun. Yeah. That's when you want to go have fun, you go to the bar. Next thing you know, well, now you've got the red and blue light special going on, and now you're not going to be home tonight, and you're going to be about $50,000 in the hole trying not to go to jail for a DUI.
But people at the bar, they'd underestimate your skills, right?
They have tended to lose money to me in the past. This guy, no way he can shoot.
You try to warn them.
It's just like shooting a fire.
Get them angles on that shit, That's hilarious. So, hey, guys, we're about halfway through. Let's take a quick break. Let's support some other veterans. When we get back, I'd love to talk to you about how you kicked the opioids, man. Because I think our listeners need to know how you did it. They've heard how Joe's done it. They've heard how lots of others have done it. Maybe you've got something different. Maybe yours is the same. Who knows? But I'd love to get in that piece, man. Help the veterans out.
Okay.
All right.
Are you ready to be inspired by incredible stories of veterans, active duty military members, and first responders? Join Marine veteran Brian Roof on Every Day to Saturday USMC veteran as he dives deep into the lives of those who continue to make a difference. Hear firsthand experiences from front lines to civilian life. Discover the strength, resilience, and triumphs of our heroes. Gain valuable insights and practical advice for navigating life's transitions. With every episode, you'll be uplifted by stories of courage, determination, and hope. This is more than just a podcast. It's a community where every day feels like a Saturday. Subscribe now on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows. Don't miss out on these powerful conversations that will leave you inspired and motivate us. Let's go. American made, veteran owned, we are Doc Goodbeard. It's more than just looking good. When it comes to your beard, we believe you can have it all. thoughtfully designed, unique fragrances, and affordable prices. We strive to provide a line of uniquely scented balms and oils that you won't find in other products. Come on, rock with Doc, and remember, it's all about the beard, man. So what do you say? Let's take that average beard and make it badass. Go to docbeard.com.
And we're back. And a little pre-note or a post-note, I don't know what you call it. But Doc Goodbeard is going to be a future guest. So we're pretty thankful for that. So, Scott, let's get back to it, brother, especially about how you were able to either wean or how did you do getting off the stuff you didn't want to take anymore?
Okay, so like I told you, I had this party and somebody stole my pills, and I called the VA the next morning, and the VA in their wonderful heartlessness said, "You lost your pills, deal with it." So I had sent, I know who took the pills, but since I didn't see him take the pills, it was easy enough to tell the one guy who didn't talk to me for 6 months.
You had to wait 30 days for the next batch, right? Or whatever days. And so
about 14 days.
Right.
About 14 days. Now I had called some of the friends that were there at the party who actually answered the phone, and they went out on the street and they found me what they could, which cost me a lot of money. I probably bought some of my own pills back at, you never can tell. But that first night was horrible. Like I said, I went from 800 milligrams to nothing cold turkey because he left me nothing. No bottle, no nothing, just gone. And it was probably the worst feeling on the planet. I was cold sweats, the hot chills, puking, pooping, combination of both at the same time, never fun. 0 stars on Yelp. And I was sitting in my spare bedroom because my girlfriend at the time, I didn't want her to, because she was freaking out. I was in my spare room with one of those little portable air conditioners, and I'd be flipping it from air conditioner to heater, air conditioner to heater. And, I was afraid to go to sleep because I was afraid that my body would just shut down because I was taking so much. I mean, the sickness that I felt was horrible. I mean, and that was for the better part of probably 18 hours before people had gotten back to me with what they found in me on the street. Now, like I said, the VA said, "Nope, you're not getting none. You lost your pills. You better find them."
Well, I guess my question was, you didn't go back to them once you were forced to go cold turkey. Did you go back?
I did. I had to go back the very 14 days later when they filled it. Because I was able to get enough to get me through, but I was definitely not the 800 milligrams I was taking. I was still going through sickness, but with a little bit of the pill, you weren't as sick, but you knew you were still hugely addicted to this. And I was able to get through those 2 weeks to where I got my new script. And when I got my script, I was taking those pills immediately and cutting them into halves. And I would just take a half, and I wouldn't take another pill until I started to feel the butterflies in the stomach.
Yeah, you knew it was coming, right? Yeah.
Butterflies, I would take another half of the pill. You have a fair amount of time before those butterflies become elephants. And
yeah. Were you using cannabis also at the time, or when did cannabis always been in the picture, right?
It was, and I had as good as I could get, but it come with the opiate withdrawals as hard as they were. It wasn't doing a lot, especially like I said, I'm throwing up, pooping. I mean, it was bad. It's something I would never want to do again. But so I kept going, and I would only take a pill when I felt the butterflies. And I kept forcing that longer and longer and longer. And finally, when I got to the point that I could go 10 hours with on a half pill, I cut that pill down into a quarter. And yeah, those butterflies came a little bit sooner, but I forced myself to, slow them out. And that's how I weaned myself off. I was off the pills in about 30 days, 35 days. And I had a bunch of pills left over. So what I did was I kept those pills in my pocket with me everywhere I went. I could hear them in the jar as I'm walking. And, I had to prove to myself that I was stronger than the pills. And it took me a while. Like I said, I just kept going till I could get to a time limit that I knew that I could cut it down. So that quarter became an eighth, and that eighth became almost just a sliver of powder. But it was within about 35 days after that I was off the pills and only using cannabis.
Well, Joey did it kind of right, didn't he?
Yeah, he did, man. I personally would have liked to see a couple of months, but
Yeah.
you did it. You survived. But, I wanted to mention how irresponsible of the VA, knowing what they know about these medications and telling you that they weren't going to do anything for you. I'm not saying that you should have gotten all your pills back. What I'm saying, though, is they should have helped you through that. That was so dangerous that there is high potential you could have died right then.
I
Seizure and shit.
And that's just completely screwed up. The VA screwed up on that. They could have done something for you, man.
I think the first 24 hours really was the worst, because like I said, the 18 of waiting to get somebody to find me pills, because I certainly could not have gone out to look for them on my own in the city, in the shape that I was in.
They probably thought you sold them and you were coming back for more and just made that an assumption that wasn't true. You should have said, admit me and watch what happens here in the next couple freaking days, y'all.
Mm-hmm.
But
you don't believe me? Come check this out.
Being inside those fluorescent lights again would have been even more detrimental to me than the pills were. But so I mean, like I said, I got people to get me pills to get me through, but it was a lot less than what my body was used to. But it made it more bearable. Maybe not great, but bearable.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you knew you wanted off of them, and you had the determination to do so.
Yeah,
I do know that it was probably one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. I never want to go through it again. Since that point, I've broken my back in 2 places. I've broken my left foot, dislocated my left foot. The VA always goes, well, we'll give you these painkillers. No, you just keep those.
Yeah.
Because that monkey is off my back. If I got real good, I've got wax, I've got, resins, I've got oils, I've got all the tools. I got the low cough device, Anthony Loria. He's got a really good device for people who, cough hard. But I'll admit that I probably smoke more than I should. And I'm trying to get off the cigarettes, but that's another addiction that I'm trying to beat.
Yeah.
I'm not doing so well.
Yeah. You haven't set your mind to it yet, bro.
It's true.
Yeah, it was a tough month. I mean, I didn't hardly go out of my house. I stayed in my room just waiting for the butterflies. And it was tough. But afterwards, I'd have some of those people that I had shared my pills with, but they could hear the pills right around. Hey man, you got a pill? No, man, I do not. There's a reason why I have these in my pockets so somebody else can't steal them, like the last set. And I have to prove to myself I'm stronger than them. And I was able to do that. And then I gave them to a veteran friend of mine who needed them later. But yeah, at one point when I first got to Florida in 2004, I got a Bowflex and I started working out. And at one point I got up to 228 pounds, and then the pills got me. And in that time, I went from 228 down to 143 before the pills were stolen. So yeah, I'm now back at 190. basically about the size I was when I got out of the Army.
You know, and this keeps proving a point to me is that, you know, when our veterans get out and they get lost for whatever time that happens, when they get to the place they feel much better in life, the struggles don't stop. It's how you deal with them and your ability to cope and your ability to deal with them and put them in a box and open a box when you have to and shut it when it's over, you know, that kind of thing where they can cope and deal with those things. Even when you're better, there's still things.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like you become thing free,
Right.
you know?
Yeah. For me, it's the headaches. It's a constant, you know, for years, it took me a long time where I could look in the mirror because it's not the face that I was used to all of my life up until that point. And then every time I looked at it, it was just another reminder of, yeah, great idea to join the Army, Scott. So, you know, that definitely did have a detrimental effect on my mental outlook for years. You know, when I was living on $90 a month, you know how many ramen noodle packets and macaroni and cheese dinners I had? I can't even look at them anymore and go, oh, that looks appealing. I was burnt out, you know, years.
You can start a podcast. Every day's a migraine.
Right.
Only 30 ways you can make macaroni and cheese before it's played out in the book, man.
Mm.
So what gets me is your tenacity to stick around, knowing that every single day the rest of your life you're gonna have a migraine.
Yeah.
Even though you've become accustomed to it. I've had two in my life. I asked the Lord to take me. They were so bad, you know. And you have anywhere from a 2 to a 10, depends on the day and the weather.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know,
So
I fought so hard to still be here when I was injured. I couldn't, you know, and I just recently had a bout of it a year ago. I just moved into this house and, you know, everything was kind of collapsing around my life about that time. And I was sitting on my front porch. I had my gun in my hand and I was looking up at the ceiling going, I wonder if you're going to notice the Rorschach test. You know, it was just enough. Finally, I was thinking, that's it. I'm done. I'm tired of being in pain. It was like during like monsoons where we had 12 days of rain in a row and it was horrible. Even, you know, no matter how much I smoked, you just can't control it when it's just that long, that intense. And I was sitting there and from across the street, I heard a meow, meow, meow. And it was this cat jumped over my neighbor's 4-foot high chain link fence, running through the yard, ran across the street. This little kitty cat was running so fast, you couldn't tell it had legs. Ran up my driveway, jumped up on my lap, turned around facing the road. She sucked her claws into my inner thighs, trapping my hand that had my gun. And she didn't move for 45 minutes. Just sat there and purred. Never met this cat before. And this cat is outside in my backyard right now. Her name is Socks. She's been here for a year. And if it hadn't been for her, I think that night I would have done that. I really was tired of all the things that were going on.
What did that represent to you? That a stray cat sensed you were in trouble.
A cat that I'm known as the cat guy. I have a lot of cats. Okay, it's comparative to the number of years I've been on this earth. So I have a lot of cats, and they just seem to find me. Right now, I've got I think 5 or 6 outdoor cats, and I just had a cat that had kittens, so I've got 5 or 6 inside cats right now. But yeah, they keep coming. But they all seem to get along, and I don't have any moles or gophers anymore.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Joe, there's your answer.
Right. Yeah.
Feed the cats. Don't feed them a lot because you want them hungry.
Yeah.
Right.
You want
I like catching them things by myself because I'll leave it alone. But yeah, I like to do the dirty deed on them little things, man. Oh,
I get heavy bag.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've come a long way in the last few years. granted, there have also been a lot of trials and tribulations too. My fiance in Arizona committed suicide on April 15th. That was hard. Her son, she either he committed suicide or just overdosed on fentanyl. We don't know. And then she committed suicide 7 days later. And yeah, it was a hard time. And that was probably what set me over the edge on that one. It was just, now I couldn't stay in Arizona. It was just not everything there was her and her son, the family. And so all those became bad memories for me. And that's when I said, oh, time to leave.
How long ago was this, Scott? How long ago was that?
April of last year.
Last year. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I'm now, I'm okay. I've met a new woman who's become a very big part of my life, and I asked her to marry me last month.
Heck yeah, man.
Congratulations, man.
Yeah,
So
brother.
now I have one more reason to stick around. So yeah, that's what I plan on doing. I plan on sticking around, and I help everybody. I become the guy, that when people need something, they call me. Back when I was in Arizona, people needed help moving, they called me because, well, hey, what am I going to say? Oh, well, I got to work tomorrow.
Yeah.
I've got all the dollies. I've learned, from years of helping people that if you don't have the right dollies and the right equipment, don't let them know you can help them move, because they're going to ask. It's not a question of if, it's a question of when.
Yeah. That must play hell on you, though, physically at our age.
Right.
Physically, I am good. I have no mobility issues. I don't have arthritis or anything like that. It's, for me, my main disability is right here. And other than the fact that I don't have, depth perception, but at 35 years, you adapt, as I get closer to something, I know that it's closer. That's why I can still drive a car. I can see the difference in headlights or brake lights when I'm going towards a car. Oh, this guy's slowing down. I can tell that. But it's taken a long time to develop that sense.
I was gonna ask you, brother. Like, you ever put on somebody else's glasses, and the Earth is actually at an angle, like that. And when you walk, you're like walking sideways. Do you ever have that?
I stay away from putting on other people's glasses.
No. I meant from your injury.
Yeah, no.
Your normal vision. Do you see that? Do you have a slant when you see?
No, I literally see panoramically. My brain has figured out how to take the two pictures of the two eyes and put them together. So I don't just see what's here in front of me. I see, what used to be my peripheral that you're used to, all the way around to the other side of my freaking head. And my brain has put it all into one gigantic, like an IMAX picture.
You got a big windshield in front of you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. All glass comes around.
I mean, like I said, when I made the joke about, you got to pack a lunch, bring a friend, get up below dark 30 if you want to try to sneak up on.
Yeah.
That wasn't really a joke. I mean, literally I see, and depending on which eye is out forward, like this one now is looking all the way back beyond my back of my chair. And I choose to use both eyes every day. Otherwise, this one would have they call it exclusion. It's where the brain shuts it off because it's like, oh, well, you don't use it. It's only causing you problems. But that wouldn't have stopped the headaches either. But like I said, I use this eye to drive, and this eye watches the people who are coming up on me. Those blind spots that people talk about, amateurs.
Right. Oh.
But
you're not disabled. You have a sense of humor about it. So
yeah, that's a beautiful thing, man. You have to, dude. What else are you gonna do, man?
Oh, my life is over. They took away my beautiful eyes.
Right.
Okay. Now I can look right into your soul and your friend's soul at the same time. It's a matter of perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man. Hey, you can't get out of here today without talking about your guitar.
Oh, that's a PlayStation guitar for Rock Band and Guitar Hero Rivals. So, like I said, I took brain damage, and when I first got hurt, I couldn't use my pinky anymore without moving the other finger. It wasn't there. It was like, eh. Well, I've been playing Rock Band and Guitar Hero now for 12, 13, probably closer to 18 years now. And when I first started, I couldn't do it. The pinky was like, no, we're just do these together. And then one day the pinky said, hey, what's going on? And it all of a sudden started working again. And over the years of playing, I can shred on bass on Rock Band or Rivals. That's my favorite one. I've got about 500 songs in my library, so I can play a lot of songs. A lot of classic rock, of course, because I was in the classic rock era. But awesome. I've got 4 guitars, 3 like that, and one of the new Riff Masters that just came out with, because they hadn't made a new guitar in like 10 years. So I've got one of those. That's pretty nice.
Right on.
But yeah, I can't play a real guitar. Hell, I can't even play an air guitar. The strings are broken.
Strings broken.
Yeah.
And you have ranking in these games, do you not?
Yeah. I'm up there. I'm definitely in the top echelon. No, I can go join a band and nobody's going to be like, oh, well, we know him. Right. It's easier for me to count the number of notes I miss in a song than the number of notes I make.
Right. So do you still practice a lot?
I was just playing earlier.
And how's the new missus like in that?
She's having thoughts of how she wants to maybe try it because she sees how much fun I have.
Oh, nice.
Right now I'm sitting in a driving rig. It's a cockpit. I've got a steering wheel. I've got the flappy paddle shifters, the brake, the gas, the clutch. I do play a lot of video games. Me, my brother, and his son Mark. We race every night on Need for Speed Hot Pursuit because they still have the server open on PlayStation 3. Which is amazing.
We've seen a lot of gaming from a lot of vets, man.
Mm-hmm.
It gets your mind out of stuff and let you focus on something besides all the crap all the time,
Yeah, like running my brother into a tree at 233 miles an hour. But hey, we won't talk about that.
Yeah.
It's all in good fun. Nobody gets hurt. If I ram him into a tree, he responds.
Right.
Push him a little bit into that box truck so that it goes. So he has board tattooed on his forehead for a few minutes.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, and we do that a lot. We play just about every night, and the fact that they still have the PlayStation 3 servers open is surprising me. That game came out in 2010, and they quit supporting the PlayStation 3 in 2015 ish.
I don't remember, to be honest with you.
It's been a while. They sandboxed it a while ago because now the 4 and the 5 are out, and the 4 is just about done now. The 6 is going to be the one where they're going to release Grand Theft Auto, the new one.
Do you get to shoot pool? You still have time to shoot pool once in a while?
I shoot pool every day. I average between 10 and 25 games a day. Lisa has gotten much better. Yesterday, and I will not lie, twice she whooped my ass. One time by 6 balls. She was on fire. But normally that's not the case. I'm really good at banking. I see angles.
He's got the angle.
He told me he says, I hate straight shots.
Right.
I love bangers. That's it.
Like I said, I will go to a place and I'll just play pool, but I'll be just trying bank shots so that I can see how the table rolls, how the rubber is. And people will be looking at me like, oh, God, he sucks. And then they want to play. Okay, we'll play. Oh, well, we got to play for at least $1. All right, fine, we'll play for $1. But then, they start getting pretty confident after they go, well, you don't know this table at all. Well, no, I do. My fin hasn't grown up high enough yet. seeing the shark fin coming up, because I know now you can all pay for a drink. Oh, things get interesting. I've taken and beaten a lot of people over the years, but I didn't play for almost 20 years because I couldn't afford to go out to the bar, and I didn't want to go to the bar. So like I said,
Right.
Things happen.
But
So I got my pool table about a year ago, and like I said, Lisa and I play many, many games. I'll wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, can't get back to sleep, rack them. In fact, I am a pretty bad mamma jamma when it comes to that. I did something that most people can't. You guys want to take one quick break? Let me go grab something real quick.
Sure.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Come on, 1 second.
Join us for Hero Stock, a special event dedicated to honoring our veterans and first responders. Experience a day filled with incredible live music performed by those who served and protected our communities. Connect with our nonprofits dedicated to helping our heroes thrive. Discover the services available to support our veterans and first responders in their journey. Bring the whole family. Kids will love the fun activities designed just for them. Reconnect with your community and celebrate the courage and sacrifice of our heroes at Hero Stock. Join us for a day of music, support, and togetherness. Check us out today on www.herostock.org.
And we're back. Scott, you wanted to show us something cool. What's up?
So, like I said, I play a lot of pool, and I have this power break, and I'm trying to get the right angle on this, but you can see that the ball shattered. There we go.
I can see that whole piece
broke all the way through here, and like yellow shrapnel was going through the living room. People were running and ducking. It was, don't underestimate the power of the eye.
Yeah, you got all of it.
And Brunswick was really cool about it. I called Brunswick, and they got a lifetime guarantee on them, and they had brightness of the balls here in 4 days.
Gotcha.
Very cool.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Scott, let me ask you. I think I ask this about every person who comes on here. Based on your life from childhood till now, all the lessons that you've learned, all the things you've been through, all the challenges and struggles you've done, if you could sum up what you would want to say to a veteran who's in a dark place, what would you say to that veteran or anybody, even our American patriots? But
you're not alone. It's hard for us guys. I mean, even mostly veterans, but guys in general. We're always taught when we were kids, hey, those are your feelings. Deal with them. We were always taught, you don't cry. You're not emotional. You try to think your way through, but sometimes there are things you just can't think through. Sometimes you just need a hug from someone or an ear to listen to, even if they're not around. And I've been involved with a number of groups. I haven't done everything perfectly. I'm still trying to figure it all out myself, but I'm trying. And if there's ever a veteran who says, "Hey, I need to talk," my phone's always on me or within a few feet of me, and I will see it.
yeah.
It's,
Well, we're trying to get to as many vets as we can through this podcast, and you being on here and showing courage for it, I definitely appreciate it. I know I can speak for all of us.
Yeah.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah.
For having the courage to do this.
I appreciate you, Scott, coming on here, and I just love your humor about your injuries and the things that you got going on. There's a lot of healing that comes from laughter alone, not to mention music and growing therapies, but your little therapies and stuff. Laughter is one of those, man. We just don't talk about it enough.
And I've always said medicine's great. Music is great medicine.
Yeah.
And with him being able to get those beats going,
Yeah.
You'd think being a sativa guy, I'd love techno, but it don't work for me at all, bro.
It depends on which one you're listening to, because there's like 75 different subgenres of techno, from dance to house to club to vocal trance.
Really? I didn't know it.
I was in Germany in when the birth of it really started out there in the discotheques, and it was like, wow, that's not bad. And because you can listen to the same classic rock song 45 times, and it's going to be the same exact song for 45 times. Mm-hmm. But then you get a good DJ who has, the ability to mix it up, mash it up, and to mix it up and mash it up, and now it's changed. It's different this time than it was the last time you listened to it, or the time before that. But yeah, I mean, it's really, lemonade out of lemons.
Man.
You take the shit and you refine it enough that it's not as shitty. You just find the way. I mean, we're all here to find our way through, and sometimes you get thrown a curveball.
Well, I'm inspired every time I talk to a fellow veteran to come on this show. Every time I'm inspired.
Well, I hope that if there's a vet out there who gains a little bit from what I've gone through, maybe try it. If you're having a headache day, try a different word. Try something different. If you're always doing the same thing like I did for so many years, and then going into the techno and finding out that I could change the way that I felt the pain, it made it at least tolerable without having to use as much, of the other things. I mean, I don't have a problem with pot. I will smoke cannabis till the day I die. I am part of the Oklahoma medical marijuana program, so I can grow my own, which I am. I'm enjoying that. It's been a while, but I did get a new tent recently, and so I'm hoping that this next grow will go well. I've got some pretty plants in there right now.
Plant therapy.
Yeah.
It works.
Certainly does.
Yeah.
I go in there and I'll sit there and I could swear I could see them growing. But yeah, I enjoy it. And if there's a veteran out there who needs an extra ear,
Absolutely.
I'm Scott Esser Reese, I'm always here.
So with that, we'd like to thank all of our viewers for always showing up and being loyal to us and sharing and following and liking, hitting all the buttons. We can't thank y'all enough for coming on this journey with us. And Scott, thank you for being on our show today. And I know you're going to help somebody somewhere down the road. And it'll be a great thing. And I appreciate it, man. We all do.
Yeah,
all right, guys.
Appreciate you, bro.
Until next time, thank you, everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe.